I've realised that this Coral Cup head of the market is an absolute minefield, and it's all going to cut up massively.
Hello everybody, welcome to the latest edition of The Jump Show. It's number 9 in our Ante-Post series. If you missed it, do go and check out our handicap weights live stream. About an hour and 20 minutes of handicap goodness. And it did feature a lot of Jake Price's spreadsheet, which has become somewhat of a bible to a lot of handicap weights fans. Jake, I thought the live stream went great, and it was nice to see all your hard work rewarded with plenty of people tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it went really well. It's just a general chat about through all the different handicap weights that were revealed today. So if you want to hear our thoughts, there's no real betting propositions in there. I mean, obviously there are, but we're not flagging every race. Oh, we fancy this, we fancy this. We're just talking through the whole race, different horses, different profiles. Yeah, hopefully you can go check it out and enjoy it.
And hopefully, Dan, some winners in there somewhere.
There'll be somewhere. Yeah, we got through every race. We've got through a fair few horses, but like Jake said, it's a general chat. Obviously, thank you to everyone who engaged on the stream and putting out all these horses. I think between us and the chat, we had every single winner covered, and they've all won by 10 lengths on the steel. So between us, we would have done fine. But yeah, really enjoyable. So thank you to everyone who watched and contributed to the stream.
Yeah, big time. Echo those thoughts and sentiments. And please do remember to like and subscribe to this video as well. It truly does help us out. Without further ado, let's move on to our Ante-Post selections for week 9. And Jake, going to start with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to be having one last stab at handicap before obviously we finish the Ante-Post series. And I'm going to be going to the Coral Cup. So this was an interesting race today because obviously we had Sam Majest, who was favourite for the race. And he was given a mark of 140 in Britain. So therefore he has been moved £0 from his Irish mark, which raised a lot of eyebrows. But it clearly means he's a very well handicapped horse, and it's going to mean that he's going to be going to the Martin Pipe, which is a 0-145, rather than coming to the Coral Cup, which is what I actually put him up for in my Telegram page, just because I thought that he would be given another 5, 6, maybe even £7 by the British handicapper, which obviously hasn't happened. So Sam Majest from the top of the market, currently 9-2 in places, as far as I'm concerned, is a non-runner. So that's obviously a big opening for looking at a bet in the Coral Cup. Langadan's in there. He is what he is, isn't he? If you either like him or you hate him, I think that's pretty much how it goes. I couldn't really be with him. So yeah, I'm happy to take him on either way. Like if he wins, then fine, but he's not a horse that I'm ever going to be, getting on side or getting excited about. And then next in is Doddy the Great, who is trained by Nicky Henderson, and he's number 59 on the list. So it's going to be very touch and go if he gets in or not. He's going to have to rely on a lot of horses going to the Martin Pipe rather than here. He's going to have to rely on, just horses taking up different engagements. And I think that 59 might be a stretch too far, as much as he would have a good chance if he did turn up. But he's also like 8-1, 10-1 in the market. So if Sam Majest, Doddy the Great, Lucky Place, and Côte de Bourbon, 4 of the top 5 in the market, they could all end up heading elsewhere or not getting into the race, then it does open it up. And one at a massive price that I think would have a really good chance here if she turned up is Fear to Glory. Obviously, again, trained by Nicky Henderson. She's a mare who I think a lot of people had on their Coral Cup radars for last season. And going into the Warwick listed 2.5 mile mares hurdle, which was run in February, just before the festival. She was, on a lot of radars. She was off a mark of 137 at the time, but then she went and bolted up by 11 lengths and got put up to 145. So that kind of forced Nicky Henderson's hand to run her in the mare's hurdle. I think, Connections wanted to give it a go anyway. She ran a really respectable race. I remember Bartlett at the beginning of the race was saying, wasn't he? Oh, this is the best mare's hurdle we've ever had. I think he's mentioned it about 5 times in commentary about how good the race was. But yeah, Fear to Glory ran on really well. She finished 6th in the end. She was only beaten 11 lengths by Honeysuckle. She was just behind Brandy Love. She was just behind Echoes in Rain. These proper mares who always run to a good standard. So I thought it was a really good run. She had Marie's Rock and Epatante behind her that day as well. And this season, I think, hasn't really gone to plan. Obviously, she went to Sandown after that race and finished 3rd in the pathetic 2 mile, 5.5 furlong grade 2 that was just absolutely no gallop, won by Nappers Hill. And then she returned to Ascot in November, where she was 3rd behind Blue King Daru. who's rated 148. And Strong Leader was in second that day as well, and he's rated 150. So that was a decent run. She went off favourite for the race. I think quite a lot of people fancied her for the day. Blue Kangaroo obviously ended up being ahead of his, improving for going up in trip this season. Strong Leader's a bit of a funny horse, but he does normally run his race, and she finished third there, which is a good effort. But then she went to Cheltenham for a mare's handicap in December. That was on the new course, so it'll be on a different course to what she's running on here. Obviously, she ran so well on the old course for the mare's hurdle last year, but she ran on the new course. But she was, shouldering a hefty weight that day. She was off 12 stone, carrying 12 stone off a mark of 143, and she ended up falling. I think it was at the last. She never looked like she was going to go on and win it, but I think that the heavy weight just kind of took its burden. She was up against Nurse Susan, who was very well handicapped on the day. A couple of other nice ones in there as well. So I think you can forgive that. And then the last day when she ran at Doncaster in a grade 2 over 3 miles. And I just don't think she stays 3 miles. I think it was worth a try with her. Why not give it a go just to see what happens? But yeah, I don't think she really stayed. But as a result of that, she's now down to a mark of 141, which I think is very workable for a Coral Cup. Mares obviously have a decent record in the race. Down to Compagnie won this race off at 140. The year after, Heaven Help Us was in it off 138, I think it was. So, she's around the mark you want to be. The low 140s is perfect. And the best thing is she's currently 40-1 non-runner no bet, which I think is a pretty big price considering the profile of the horse that she is. I don't know if she definitely turns up here. She still has the mare's hurdle option, but I'd imagine that Connections will kind of look at that and go, well, we're not going to win the mare's hurdle this year off of worse prep than last year, are we? And looking, slightly less progressive than we did last year. So, yeah, I'm hoping that she'll take a chance in the Coral Cup, and at 40-1, I'm happy to have her in the book.
Yeah, a really comprehensive explanation there, Jake. Best of luck with that one. Dan, let's have your selection then for Ante-Post Week 9.
You're going to like this because I've done a complete 180. And what I said before we just started this call was I'm going to do Gabby's Cross and Waterford Whispers because they are two horses I like a lot. And I'd had this in mind for a week, and they were both going to be bets for the live stream. However, circumstances have changed drastically for both of them. One, Sam and Jess is now going to run in the pipe, and so Waterford Whispers becomes a less tempting proposition. Gabby's Cross has halved in price in that time as well, from 25s into 12. So there are extenuating circumstances. So I've done a U-turn, and like Jake, I've realised that this Coral Cup head of the market is an absolute minefield, and it's all going to cut up massively. And so one horse I did mention briefly that might now become of interest for the race because of Sam Majest is another horse in the JP colours, also trained by Nicky Henderson. So it's two Nicky Henderson horses in the Coral Cup we're going to be putting up here. But No Ordinary Joe now becomes very interesting for that race. Obviously, we all saw the run at Kempton the other day where he wasn't given the most vigorous of rides. Actually, it was interesting. I think they took like 2 hours for them to book the jockey for that race. He was the only one for a long time who didn't have a jockey booking. I was there surely they've got to find someone to take the bullet for this ride that he's going to be given. And I think Kevin Brogan was the man in the end for that job. And he did a fair job of it. Obviously, he wasn't really given any kind of winning chance. It was a similar story at Doncaster before that. But he just has, I think if you take a step back, a very solid profile for a Coral Cup. He's got plenty of experience now. Obviously, he was second in the Martin Pipe last year to a Rocco. And I think the old course probably plays with strengths a bit better than the new course. The new course, very stiff finish, especially that Martin Pipe, tends to be a real test of stamina. I'm not sure that's really his forte. I think he's a relatively quick 2.5 miler. So I think the old course will suit him a bit better. Solid Cheltenham Festival form has been a key guide to the Coral Cup in recent years. Nicky Henderson and JP obviously have a terrific record in the race as well. They left him alone on a mark of 140 for that. He's always been a horse they've held in extremely high regard. He could be a lot better. And he's had his quirks, and he's definitely shown at times he doesn't necessarily want to win that much. But I do think there were signs, particularly towards the back end of last season, saying that Martin Pipe, that he was starting to get over those. I think he is a bit more of a mature horse now. He also fits one of my old favourite angles for the race that ever since I thought it was an angle has failed every single time. But horses for a period of time who went chasing and didn't kick on as expected, came back to the Coral Cup and generally ran really well at big prices. Now, it hasn't happened in many recent renewals, but it did used to be a thing, and they used to have far worse profiles for the race than No Ordinary Joe has. So I think given the way the race may now pan out, given that Sam Majest is likely to head to the Martin Pipe and be a short price favourite, No Ordinary Joe now all of a sudden becomes the clear JP and Nicky Henderson #1 for this race, given that The other horses he has are all likely to go towards the county hurdle. So I think in a race where the top of the market looks likely to cut up, Ordinary Joe is still 16-1 in places. I think he'll be a lot shorter on the day now.
It's great stuff, Dan. Thank you very much for that. And a very lucid argument once again presented by yourself. I'm going to go with a Paul Nolan horse. And now I don't want anyone thinking that Andrew Blair White has had an influence on me for this, because he definitely hasn't. And in fact, I don't think he actually agrees with me for once that this Paul Nolan beast has got a chance. I'm going with Daily Present in the Kim Muir, a 7-year-old who I suppose the main challenge for him is to actually get in the race itself. Now, he's right down the bottom in terms of rating. He's on 127. Which is the same as his Irish mark, which is, I think, very fair indeed, given the fact that he won nicely last time. In 3 of the last 6 renewals, he would have got in, which is a big positive. He also fits other trends too. 4 of the last 7 winners have been 7-year-olds, 4 of the last 5 winners have been Irish trained, and the last 2 winners have both come from the bottom of the weights. So there's plenty in his favour if he gets into the contest. I'm going to go and hope that he does. I think if he does, he's got an absolutely massive chance. My reasoning for this is that so far in his short career over fences, he didn't show a huge amount in novice chases, but they were looking for a mark, really. And once he got it, that came 59 days ago, he beat a very solid horse for the level that they were racing at, 0 to 123 level, Positive Thinker, who'd been in really good form recently, consistent form. He beat him pretty well. Wore a first-time tongue-tie that day. I think that probably sparked some improvement, but it was really the Step Into Handicap company which I think saw him to best effect. That was over 3 miles on soft ground. I don't think he'll have any problem with staying further than that because he's got plenty of stamina in his pedigree. And he also looks as though he's going to be the type to relish an extra couple of furlongs in trip too. He's up £7 in the ratings. That still leaves him a few pounds below his hurdles mark. So he looks well treated on that. And as I say, he's got the same mark as his Irish mark. So a lot of things in his favour. He'd be right down the bottom of the weights if he gets in, and considering he's pretty lightly raced, and hopefully we'll have a nice amateur book too, he'd appeal to me a lot. So Daily Present is my pick this week. Not quite as comprehensive an argument as the boys, but I'm quite confident about him. But as I say, the big thing for him is if he gets into the race. If he does, I think he'll probably want ground on the softer side, but he might well get that. And the other thing I should say, just looking at the race itself, Good Time Johnny, I could not have, even though he won last year's potential, I could not have Good Time Johnny the way that he's performed over fences so far in his career. He just hasn't looked as though he wants to be there at all, and he's at the top of the market. So happy to take him on. Percival Galloway, of course, is really liked by Jake, but I am a bit worried about that mark of 144 now. It could be on the touch on the higher side. At the same time, I do think he's got a good chance. Angel Storm won the race last year. Likewise, though, she's higher in the weights, and I'd be put off by that. I think the main danger from the top of the market could easily be Cool Survivor. I think that would be the main danger to Daily Present. But then you've got, I know the way you're thinking, Firm Footing, Swacker Clan, then Daily Present's next in the market at 16-1. So he is fancied if he gets in. And off the mark of 127, that would leave him on 10 stone 10. 7-year-old, as I said, got good records in this race recently. So clearly an improving chaser on the right trajectory. He'd be the one for me. And got to keep my fingers crossed that enough come out that we can see him having a run in the race. So Daily Present for me. Okay, lads, thanks very much. Bit of a shorter one this week, but as we said, the longer one was the Weights Handicap live stream. So do get onto that if you haven't watched it. Comment with your best bet, your best handicap bet, and indeed your thoughts on the Cheltenham Festival as a whole. We are pretty close to that Tuesday, that opening day of the greatest show on turf. So very much looking forward to it. We'll have a couple of videos before then, so don't worry, don't fear. And as I say, please do remember to like and subscribe to us because it really does help us out. So from me, Jake and Dan this week, it's goodbye.